And our guest today is Frank Gillespie, the proud owner of this establishment. Hey, Frank, how are you today?
You're very welcome to the Mad Hatters, Fred.
Thank you very much. We're pleased to be here.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah, we have lots of questions for you. We have a nice interview planned for you today. And let's cut to the chase. And we know you have a journey that you came from Ireland, and you came to the United States. And what brought you to the United States?
Well, it's such a long story, but I actually first got interested in the States, as every kid did back in Ireland, when I was going to school. When first television came out we had our first television, I think, was back in the early 60s, and everything on it was the Cowboys and John Wayne, and everybody wanted to come to America, and it was always instilled in me. And when I'd be at school, I'd be looking out the window, and the teacher often told my mother, "He's in dreamland. He's better off to go with his dreams than be at school." So I first came in contact with an American man back in the 1968. His ancestors came from my village in Terrace Pass in County Westmeath, and as a kid we showed him around the village, and he happened to be a very famous poet and writer, and his name was Robert Francis, and he came from Amherst in Massachusetts. And Francis would have been a great friend of Robert Frost's.
Oh, wow.
And Francis, when he went back to the States, ended up writing to me. We stayed in contact. He sent me some of his books. One of his books was The Trouble with Francis, and he actually wrote a piece about being shown around his ancestors' village by the kids, and he wrote about us in the book. And he wrote a lot of good poetry, which would be well known, one of them, The Liturgical Rogue. But I stayed in contact with Francis, and down through the years, then I eventually got some money together, and I came to the States to play Irish football.
Oh, wow.
Through a friend of mine that was working for CIE Tours, which is a big tour company in Ireland that takes over Americans for the tours in Ireland. And I fell in love with America when I first came here, and I came back and forth, and I worked in construction. I finally bought our first bar in 1990 in Boston, which became a very big success and well known throughout America and Europe. A lot of famous people went through the pub, which is called the Blackthorn, and hence we came and we left. And I decided that, well, wouldn't it be a shame to leave this pub and to leave all the stories on the walls? So I got together in my spare time and I started to write about where I came from, my journey to America, and the people I met in the pub in Boston, the Blackthorn.
Well, we're going to not to cut you, but we'll get back to that in a little while.
Right.
We're going to elaborate on that. But I'd like to talk about your wife. Your wife, Melanie. Okay, she's an actress, and her father happens to be Brendan Grace, the most beloved comedian in Ireland. Am I correct?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And let me ask you a question. I know she must have stories, and you must have stories. Your father-in-law is Brendan Grace.
Yeah.
So obviously, how's your relationship with him and your wife, and how she grew up with a comedian as a father?
Well, one of the things that people would say to Melanie and to say to me is, it must be great to be with Brendan. You know, he has you laughing all the time. Brendan is very actually offstage, kind of a shy character of a person that spends a lot of time writing his script and preparing for his work and his family. He's a big family man, and now that he has 3 grandchildren, and 2 that I and Melanie have, James and Patrick, and his son Brendan has Aidan, and he spends a lot of time with his grandchildren, and he's actually a different human being when he goes up on stage. This whole character evolves around him, and he's an amazing person. I actually knew Brendan before I knew Melanie, and he inadvertently probably introduced me to his daughter.
Oh, wow.
And
that's unusual.
I don't know how happy he was about it, or how happy he is about it to this day.
Right.
But Brendan was doing a show in Boston, and
Right.
Melanie was starting school in Emerson. And he said to me, Melanie has an apartment got here, but there's no parking. Do you know of anywhere that she could park her car? And I said, yeah, sure. I got loads of parking spaces. I have a nice house down in Quincy, and I have parking. She can park her car there. And Melanie came, parked her car, and I knew her for about a year and a half, maybe 2 years, coming in and out of the Blackthorn and coming up and down for her car. And we started to do lunch. And our biggest fear was how are we going to say this to Brendan and to her mum, Eileen. And Melanie actually came down to Palm Beach, here to Tequesta, for her dad's birthday back X amount years ago, maybe 10 years ago, and when we were first dating, and she tried to break the news to her dad, and her dad asked how I was doing in Boston, and do you ever see Frank? Oh yeah, she said, I see Frank all the time. I'm in and out to the Blackthorn with my friends. And she says, oh, Frank's a great guy. He looks after everybody in Boston. And she says, yeah, Dad, he is. She says, I really love Frank. Oh yeah, he said, we all love Frank. And she says, yes, Dad, but I really love Frank. And he had a pint of Guinness, like I have right now in front of me. And I believe he swallowed the whole pint, put it on the counter, looked at her and said, Frank Gillespie is too old to be my son-in-law. But he said, Melanie, if you're happy, he says, and I can get past the handbrake, which would be his wife, everything could be okay. So Brendan came to me one day in Boston. He came up to visit, and he was doing a show in the Blackthorn, which he did many. And he gave me his blessing. And here we are. Unfortunately, during the few weeks afterwards, we ended up in a major road accident in Ireland, and Melanie and I happened to be home on holiday, and we hit a truck.
Wow.
Or a truck hit us, and she was very badly injured. Oh. She had broken ankles, knee, vertebrae, numerous injuries all over her body. I got out lucky enough with a broken chest bone, as they call it. It's another word for it. Is it
sternum?
Sternum,
yes,
exactly.
Yes,
and
right.
some broken ribs. And
wow.
I think that she was amazing, because this happened on the 13th of May 1999, and she was in hospital the whole summer, but she still managed to go back and do her schooling in Emerson College in Boston, and be carried up and down stairs by the rest of the students, because there was no elevators in Emerson College at that stage. She recovered very well, and I suppose she felt sorry for me and married me. And
she was sorry for you. She married you.
That's my story.
And she's had some acting ability.
Yeah,
right?
Melanie has actually, she's been acting with her dad since she was 5, and singing on stage with him. And
oh, wow.
she's a great performer, great singer, great songwriter.
So she is.
And she has been in a few soaps in Ireland.
Oh, wow.
And one very famous soap that she was murdered off in, funny enough, just before we were married. It's called Ross Naroon. It's a Gaelic, Gaelic as they call it. It's totally Gaelic speaking.
Oh.
She's fluent in Gaelic.
Wow.
So she sings, and she loves the entertainment, and still does
cool.
the odd show with her dad, whether it be here or back in Ireland.
Cool, very good. Well, I know the Mad Hatter here, you do something a little special, other than most other pubs and restaurants. Tell us a little insight about what makes the fire grow here. What makes all the people come here to your establishment?
Well, I suppose it's a $6 million question. When your back is to the wall, you have to go out and fight and try and see what works. And we had a situation here, whereas that it was used basically for very retired people, mostly down through the years, frequented McCarthy's. Be open at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and they'd be rolling up the bar at 8:30, 9 o'clock at night. and I came and I bought it along with my father-in-law Brendan, who's my partner, and we ran it for a couple of years as McCarthy's, and it just didn't click because of the economy. We bought it at probably the wrong time. Things went slow, and we had to come up with an idea. So Melanie actually came up with the idea of the Mad Hatter's Pub, and try and get a name out there and brand it so as we attract some younger people as well. And when I say younger people, it doesn't have to be people from 21 to 30. I suppose the spectrum is between 21 and 70.
Yeah.
And we have a lot of the older